Welcome to this Arnold Culliford knitwear tutorial. I'm going to show you how to work an icord cast off or icord bind off. I love icord bind off as it's a really neat way of finishing the edge of a project. It just gives a very subtle but professional looking finish to your projects. This is the Bramante cowl from Something New to Learn About Helical Knitting, and this design uses an icord cast off both at the finished edge but also at the cast on edge. You return and add it at the end of the project. So I'm going to take you through the steps now for how to work an icord cast off. I'm going to show you how to add an icord cast off to the edge of this Bramante cowl. I have taken off the waste yarn at the cast on edge and I've picked up all the stitches on smaller needles. I can leave the smaller needle in because it's just going to be holding the stitches rather than actually working them, so it doesn't make any difference what size it is. First thing you need to do is to turn to the wrong side of your work. When you work the icord on the live stitches at the top of the cowl, you will already have working yarn attached. But down here at the cast on edge, we need to join in our new yarn, and we do that by making a slip knot. Do that by winding the wool around and pulling it through. And then you put the slip knot onto the left needle tip. And I'm using a needle to work the icord that's actually one size larger than the gauge size needle. When you work an icord onto live stitches, each row or round of the icord matches up with one stitch. Because stitches are wider than they are tall, it can help to use a slightly larger needle than you used for knitting the cowl so that your icord lies flat. So we cast on one stitch with a slip knot, and we're now going to use the backwards loop method to add two more. So you make a loop on the needle and tighten it up, and another one and tighten it up. So I've now added my 3 icord stitches and I've got 100 cowl stitches. Again, if you were at the live stitches at the end of the cowl, you'd have your working yarn attached and you could add all 3 of the new stitches with the backwards loop cast on. And now it's very straightforward. I'm going to knit 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to work an SSK to join the last icord stitch to the first cowl stitch, and I do that by slipping the first one knitwise. It's the slip knot, so it might be a little bit tight. Slip that knitwise, and then I slip the second one purlwise, but you can slip it knitwise if you'd rather. And then we're going to knit them together through the back loops. So we've now joined our icord to the edge. We then return the 3 stitches to the left hand needle, slipping them back purlwise, and we repeat it. So we're going to knit 1, knit 2, slip the first one knitwise, I slip the second one purlwise, and then knit them together through the back loop. And then we slip all 3 stitches back onto the left needle again. And we finish off the last few stitches of the icord cast off. I'm then going to show you how to join the ends of the icord. Okay, so we've completed our icord cast off. All of the cowl stitches are now safely joined into the icord and complete. So we could at this point choose to cast off the 3 icord stitches or just knit them together and then sew them to the beginning of the icord edging. But if you sew the live stitches down as if you were grafting them together, you get a really neat finish on it. So I'm going to show you briefly how to do that. So there's only 3 stitches to join, so you won't need a very long tail. I'm going to cut it at about 30 centimetres, which is plenty. You then thread that tail onto a tapestry needle. You want something blunt that won't split your stitches. So I'm going to use a smaller needle to pick up the stitches from the beginning of the icord, and we're going to pick up the right hand side of each of the V's. So if you look at the base here, we can pick up that one there, and then there's a second one there, and right round on the edge is the third one. And we're going to pick them up so that we can graft from the right hand side to the left hand side. So we need to put our needle tip in at the left. 1, 2. Getting that last one on is a little bit awkward because it's right round the edge. So you've got to sort of roll it round. But as long as you've got 3 sensible loops picked up, you'll be able to join them. And then you'll see that the yarn is attached to the far left hand stitch on your needle where you were working the icord cast off, and that's fine because when you work the icord you're actually working round a tube of 3 stitches each time, and so we're going to join this first one. So we set up by passing through purlwise, and on the back needle by passing through knitwise, always keeping the working yarn under the needle tips. And then it's our usual setup for grafting of knit, slip off, purl, and then the other end purl, slip off, knit. We have a separate tutorial on Kitchener stitch or grafting, which you may find helpful if you've not grafted before. This is just to show you how you can use that technique to complete your icord edge. And then the final one is just slip that off knitwise and slip that off purlwise. And then it starts off looking like a bit of a mess, and what you then need to do is just gently pull through and tighten up the stitches, especially that last icord stitch will be needing a bit of tightening. Once you've tightened up the graft line, you can see that you get a pretty invisible join on the icord edge there. You can see where it is if you look closely, but from a distance it's not going to show nearly as much as casting off and sewing the 2 ends together would. Then all that remains is to weave in the end from your cast on edge and the 2 ends from your icord, and the bottom edge of the Bramante cowl is completed. I hope now you're feeling really confident at adding an icord edging to any of your knitting projects. If you'd like to know more about our ebook, Something New to Learn About Helical Knitting, do visit our website acknitwear.co.uk. Thanks for watching.